Greetings and welcome to another episode of Pop's Collection. This is a special episode where we're going to talk in the spirit of Halloween. I'm Ron Tweedy, joining these Pops. We're going to cover Marvel's special presentation of Werewolf by Night on Disney Plus.
And all I got to say about that is, "Ow!" Because for me, highly anticipated.
Okay.
I love horror movies, and especially from my youth, the cinematography in this and the way the director chose to go is a lot like those old time horror flicks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. For me, I really, really loved it.
Yeah.
It brings me back to the days when you could tell a story in 55 minutes and still be a good story.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, it's funny because you say that a lot of the old Universal monster movies, they're about that runtime, a little bit more than an hour, if that.
Yes.
Again, also in black and white. This is primarily in black and white as well. And then we also have a brand new directorial debut. This is Michael Giacchino, and
yes,
he is more famously known as a composer. You know, he did the Spider-Man theme, Doctor Strange theme, and then he also did some other stuff that's non-Marvel, like Lost. I think he did the J.J. Abrams Star Trek films as well. So yes. This is his first time, directing a film as opposed to just composing. And
right, and he also composed the music for this too.
So kind of like a John Carpenter type of deal. And if this is what we're going to get out of him, I'd say we might want to pay a little bit more attention to Michael Giacchino.
Oh yes, no question. I'm going to go out on a limb, and because they have stated that this is part of Phase 4.
Mm-hmm.
So I am going to go out on a limb and say this so far is the best presentation of Marvel for this in this year.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Especially in this year.
Yeah. I don't think you're
there might be some questions earlier, but this year definitely.
You're not out on a limb saying that. I hardly agree. It was refreshing to see this after everything else that we've been through with 2022. So, but it's interesting because from a storytelling perspective, you have I think kind of a lot of the old meets the new in this particular story. So it's interesting trying to piece all of that together and putting it into one cohesive story.
Which I think was successful.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, because you've got, I'll share my screen so we could take a look at what we've got going on here. The first one is not even available in Marvel Unlimited. It's the old school Marvel Tales from 1953. So before even you were born, the original Werewolf by Night story was told. And this was prior to the Comics Code Authority. So this was a horror book, and again, that's kind of like one of the original OG stories. And then once the Comics Code Authority came into being, horror stories were kind of not done anymore until the 1970s. So
right, a lot of that had to do with the e-comics that
EC.
I forget. Yes, that they came out with Tales from the Crypt and things like that. And so Marvel, of course, did their particular aspect of that.
Yeah.
And later, after the code, I guess it was Marvel Spotlight 1972 was the next time that it was available.
Yeah, this is it right here. Issue number 2.
Yes.
And this eventually became its own book, Werewolf by Night. But you can see here, this is the first appearance of Jack Russell. And, I do like how faithful they stayed to the design of the werewolf. They could have gone out of control with the CGI to make him like this big hulking thing. But basically, you have
Well, it was more true to
yeah,
you own some of those black and white movies,
uh-huh,
and the way the werewolf looked back then
yeah,
is kind of the way he looks
yeah,
in this particular
yeah,
movie.
yep.
So I was very much appreciative of that.
Yeah, and one thing I think was one thing that was a kind of a missed opportunity because the first appearance of Moon Knight was actually in a Werewolf by Night comic, and I just
Yes.
has grabbed issue number 32. He's on the cover there, so obviously not a werewolf hunter in the MCU, but I think it would have been at least a mention of Mark Spector would have been helpful. I think, but anyway,
Yeah, yes, I think so. And maybe that's why it is part of phase 4. Maybe there's going to be
I don't know.
some type of a team up or something. I don't know either.
Yeah, we'll see.
But we did not get Moon Knight, but however, we did get another Marvel character
Right. Yeah. Ted,
in this, Ted. Yes.
otherwise known as Man Thing. So yeah, from 1974.
Yes, definitely. Which was Marvel's answer to DC's Swamp Thing.
Yeah, and to me, I mean, this cover from Frank Bruner, I mean, is so ahead of its time. I mean, it looks like it's from the 90s. It looks so good. I was just like impressed that this was like 20 years before I thought it would be.
Yes,
Yeah, it's beautiful. The
it is.
yeah, the
And it
detail.
is somewhat like at the end of our episode today, I'll give a little couple of recommendations, but I do have to say that the movie version
Yeah,
is somewhat. They try to make it similar to that.
yeah. You got Howard the Duck in the first issue of Man Thing. I find that
Yeah,
hilarious. That's wild.
it is. It is. But hey, that's another character that they haven't really done anything good with. But
I don't
hey,
know. Like I thought that his little appearances in the Guardians movie was totally fine. Yeah, no issues there.
right. But I mean, that was not a real story
No, no,
of
no, no, no.
him. So yeah, it was okay. I have to
Yep,
agree with that.
yep. And then the third person that we're gonna talk a little bit about is Elsa Bloodstone, and she had her own series in the early 2000s. I picked issue number 4 because it's looks like a little homage to Indiana Jones, but she's a monster hunter, just like in the comics and in the special here. And you can see her fighting some vampires, some Frankenstein's monsters. So anyway, a little bit more modern. So you have the marriage between 2000s Marvel horror and you have 50s and also 70s. So it's kind of like a whole amalgamation to you know everything Marvel horror. So
Right. And I did think we did get a little bit of an homage to the Tales from the Crypt, the
yeah,
Crypt Keeper,
yeah, I suppose.
when that's when they when Ulysses Bloodstone in this series, it's the story starts. He's died, and somebody is going to have to take over to be the main hunter,
Yeah,
and get the Bloodstone.
right.
And so he decides he's going to talk to them after he's already dead,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
coming out of his
yeah.
coffin, and they crank it up. And that was kind of my like, oh yeah, that's like the Crypt Keeper.
I suppose.
Similar. But that was my thought about that.
Mm-hmm.
Again, to tell this story and to make it appealing to the eye, to keep your mind, engaged,
Mm-hmm.
and tell the whole story in 55 minutes. It was just,
Yeah.
wow,
Yeah.
just great.
Well done. Yeah.
Yes, all the way around. And I'm hoping we see some more stuff like that, maybe.
Well, there is another special presentation in Disney Plus happening next month, so we'll get to see that.
That is true. And that was the little trailer you sent me, wasn't it?
It was, yeah.
It was a special. Maybe we'll do that for a special Christmas episode or something.
Well, it does come out the day after Thanksgiving, so we'll have to maybe
We'll
sooner
have
than
to,
that.
well, we could do it sooner than that. That is true. But yes, I'm thinking maybe we might consider. I know that week after we got Wakanda Forever coming out.
Yep.
So I imagine we'll go for that.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we'll discuss some trailers. I don't know. We'll talk about it though later.
Okay.
Anyways, so I thought the cinematography was great.
Yep.
Interesting how they were to do it in black and white, but yet the bloodstone was red
Mm-hmm.
in that.
Yeah.
I thought it was really good the way they added certain little touches here and there.
Mm-hmm.
I thought the trophies were really good looking. They really were sharp.
Yep.
Interesting too, because this is supposed to be the incarnation of Russell, Jack
Yes.
Russell, right?
Right. Right.
There was another one. I'm trying to think. I think it was in October of 2020,
Yeah. Gomez.
and it was Gomez.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have Jack Russell in this,
Yep.
but we have a Mexican actor playing him.
Yeah.
So I thought,
Yeah.
but kind of we got it both in there, you know?
Sure.
And by the way, I thought that he did a really good job
Yeah.
doing his part.
Yeah.
Actually, all of the hunters were kind of interesting.
Yep.
Azrael was that the woman, I think, that she was kind of real tall and skinny. I don't know if you remember her,
Mm-hmm.
but I thought it was interesting,
Mm-hmm.
definitely.
Yeah.
Stepmother running the show and
Right.
saying, "Hey, whoever catches the monster,
Yeah.
but hey, if something happens to somebody else along the way,
Yeah.
especially the daughter,
Yeah.
it's okay." So again, pretty interesting. I felt like that the weapons that they had, that was also a mixture of something that might be considered new and old.
Yeah.
I think that the wrist thing probably was not an older type weapon.
Yeah. I don't know.
I don't know either, but anyways, acting was real good in this too.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I think they did not go all that overboard on the CG.
No. No, they didn't.
And so that made it pretty interesting. The only thing I can say as a band geek from high school,
Mm-hmm.
although I played tuba,
Yeah.
I never played a tuba that had flames
Fire.
shooting
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that that was pretty ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
But it goes along with, the way things were back
Yeah.
then.
Sure.
So, um, what would you like to talk about next about this? Anything in particular that floats your boat about it, or?
No, I mean it's a good piece of storytelling from Marvel in 2022. I mean that's pretty much it. It's tight storytelling, like you said. The fact that they were able to tell a better story in 55 minutes that took She-Hulk 2.5 hours to do, or whatever, 3 hours, 4 hours. I don't know how much.
Right. How much better would She-Hulk have been if this guy would have directed it?
I don't know. To me, I don't think it was a direction issue. I think it was a writing issue. So,
Okay, well, maybe the writers for this show, if they would have also written the She-Hulk thing, maybe that would have been, I don't know.
it's hard to say because, obviously we're talking about two completely different genres, horror versus comedy. And yeah. So I don't know.
It could have, that's the thing. You could have pushed She-Hulk in a different direction rather than comedy, and it might have been a totally different show, a much better show, I
Well,
think.
no, I think comedy was the right choice. It was, because that's true to a lot of the comics for She-Hulk. It's not definitely, it's not a serious book. So I think comedy was the right choice. Just, comedy is
Right.
not funny nowadays. The way that these people woke comedy is terrible. And, there's nothing else really to say about it. It's not funny.
True. And besides, we are talking about Werewolf by Night. So I'm sorry for
Sure.
going off on that, but
Well, it's hard not to
um,
make comparisons. I mean, it's like, like I said on last week's episode with Black Adam, as a on a standalone thing, it's middle of the road comic book movie, but in light of the drought that we've been experiencing in 2022, it's an oasis.
yes, yes. And again, uh, this for me, I will have to say that it is graphics. You might not want your children to see it,
Yeah.
but I mean, to a point.
Yeah,
And it is black and white, so it's
yeah, I
not
think
as
that, yeah, that's why
gory as it could be.
they were able to get away with a little bit more because of that,
Yes.
which
Um,
it's okay.
but for me, it's a must see. Um,
Sure.
I would say to somebody, it would be worth getting Disney for the month so that you could see it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's definite plus.
Mm-hmm.
And while we're talking about that, when they came out with in the 70s with the Werewolf by Night, it
Mm-hmm.
just a month later,
Yeah.
they came out with
Yeah.
Dracula, the Tomb of Dracula.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this DVD I got was something that was made in Japan in the 1980s.
Okay.
So the quality of the animation, it's an anime,
Oh.
and it's not great, but for that period, it's typical for that period as far as the animation goes. It is rated R,
Yeah.
and it's an hour and 30 minutes.
Okay.
I can tell you that to our listeners, if they would like to see that, you can actually watch it on YouTube.
Hmm.
So they do have it on YouTube, or if you'd like to purchase it, you probably would have to look around for it. It took me
Yeah.
a while to find that, but
Well, I mean, just in defense of 80s Japanese animation, I mean, it's anime that's like actually the highest quality time period for Japan with the bubble economy and everything. They were able to spend a ridiculous amount of money and good quality anime. So I wouldn't necessarily write it off. Just maybe the dubbing was pretty substandard, but the actual probably animation quality is probably better.
um,
I don't know about that, but if not,
it's kind of, well, you know what? I guess it's, I guess, how can I say? It's not as sharp.
okay.
So, and that might have something to do with maybe the way it
The
was
format.
recorded.
It could be the format.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it could be the format of it. But the story itself was very interesting.
Yeah.
When they came out with the Dracula one,
Yeah.
it was in print from 72 to 79.
Yeah.
So it went for quite a long time.
Yeah.
With a lot of good storylines. And this is kind of a conglomeration of it. So if you're interested in seeing something similar to that genre, Werewolf by Night,
Yeah.
I strongly recommend. It's known as the Tomb of Dracula.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you could find it on YouTube.
Yeah.
And if you get Disney Plus, you could maybe watch Man Thing.
Okay.
Maybe they're both rated R, so you might want to check them out before you, if you're going to check them out.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do family stuff with it. Definitely,
No.
it's not a family watch.
No.
So, yes, for me, must watch. I'm looking forward to seeing if they do go into a direction, since it is phase 4. Maybe a team up with Moon Knight or I don't know.
Yeah,
I mean, we'll have to see what direction they choose to go in with it,
sure.
and we can go from there, because to me it makes a whole lot of sense.
Yeah, or the other thing would be Blade would be the other obvious choice if we're going to go around the
Yes,
horror route, because
yes.
they did announce that Blade is coming. So
As a show, or as a special, you don't know.
I don't know what form it's going to come in, but they're bringing back Blade.
Well, that should be interesting
Yeah,
then.
yeah,
Definitely. Well, in this show, the reason I brought up the Dracula thing,
okay,
because if you remember when they were looking at the trophies on the wall,
yeah,
Russell says, "Oh yeah, I had many fights with him,"
yeah,
which, as you know, there's been a lot of werewolf Dracula stuff.
yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
so
Right.
I don't know. Anyways, okay, so if you're done,
Yep.
I'm done, kind of.
Yep.
Really?
Yep. I'm
Have to
good.
decide what you want to do next week.
Yep.
All right. Well, that sounds great to me.
All right. Good deal. Well, again, thank you all for tuning in. Definitely go see this one, and we'll see you next week with something else. Goodbye. God bless.
Goodbye. God bless. Tell your friends.